During his childhood years, Eric Draven witnessed a horrific tragedy when his beloved horse became entangled in barbed wire, writhing in pain. In a moment of desperation, the boy tried to help the animal while his mother slept soundly, completely unaware. With all his strength, Eric pulled on the rope but accidentally injured his own hand, leaving a scar that would never fade. That horrifying scene became deeply etched in his mind, haunting Eric's dreams for the rest of his life. Many years later, a young woman named Shell lived in Detroit. One day, Shelley received a video message from her friend Zaid, recorded by a mutual friend in a moment of horror. In the video, Zaid suggested that they could use this footage to take down Vincent Rogue, a powerful crime boss, as revenge for the crimes he committed. However, Zaid advised that it would be best for them to leave the city. Shelley wanted Zaid to stay at her place and wait for her, but Zaid wasn't sure if she was being followed. And indeed, that feeling turned out to be correct when she returned to her apartment. It was clear that someone was waiting Rogue's right-hand man. Marion emerged from the room immediately, holding Zaid's phone and checking the messages she had sent to Moran's assistant. Meanwhile, Moran injected Zaid with something that caused her to lose consciousness. He'd taken away. Shelley quickly sensed that something was wrong with her friend, so she called Zaid's boyfriend, asking him to wait because Zaid was in trouble. Without hesitation, Shelley stepped outside, feeling as though she was being watched. As she tried to escape from her pursuers, she bumped into a few police officers. In the chaos, Shelley's wallet fell, accidentally revealing a package of illegal substances inside. She was taken to the police station and later transferred to a rehabilitation center. Meanwhile, Eric had grown up and was also undergoing treatment at the center, struggling with the haunting issues from his past. The treatment program was very rigorous, but he diligently followed the psychologist's guidance. One day, he noticed a new girl and was immediately drawn to her. However, romantic relationships with the opposite sex were strictly prohibited in the center. At the same time, Vincent Rogue, known for his role in nurturing musical talent, was meeting a promising young piano artist. He started a conversation with the girl, but was immediately interrupted by Moran, who announced that Zaid had been found. Rogue entered the room where Zaid was being held. Terrified, he demanded to know Shelley's whereabouts, but Zaid was completely unaware. Rogue sighed, recounting how he had killed countless people like her throughout the centuries he had existed, and he would have no hesitation in continuing to kill more like them. However, he explained that his master needed souls like Zaid's. That was his deal: send others to hell, so that he would not share the same fate. The girl pleaded to be released, but Rogue merely leaned in and whispered something in her ear. Zaid's eyes gradually became hollow and she picked up a knife, taking her own life. Rogue looked up at the sky as if freeing her soul. Meanwhile, Shelley noticed Eric during the morning exercise session. Despite knowing it was forbidden, she bravely sat down at his breakfast table and struck up a conversation. They quickly connected, their glances often laden with meaning. During group activities, they always found ways to stay close to each other whenever possible, forming a silent but profound bond. Meanwhile, Moran traced Shelley's whereabouts through her mother, Sophia. Rogue's men arrived at the center that day to capture the girl. Earlier, Shelley had stopped by Eric's room and was surprised to see his drawings, including several sketches of her that she particularly liked. She also skimmed through the lines of text Eric had written and realized they had the potential to become song lyrics when paired with music. As she played a few instruments, Eric suggested that they collaborate to create something together, and Shelley immediately agreed. Just then, an announcement came that Shelley had a visitor. Eric glanced outside and reassured her, mistaking Moran for a lawyer. When Shelley saw the woman, she was terrified and asked Eric for help escaping, even though she didn't know how. In a state of panic, Eric led her to the laundry room and pointed out the windows that led outside. But first, they needed to remove the tracking device. After helping Shelley get rid of her monitoring bracelet, Eric removed his own as well. When the girl asked why, Eric smiled and said he was fed up with the center and planned to escape with her. The two quickly managed to get away, climbing over the fence and running deep into the woods. Before long, they reached a dirt road and managed to flag down a truck. The driver agreed to take them into the city. Shelley led Eric to the vacant apartment of a friend who was away. The couple gradually grew closer, finding solace in each other. They spent quality time together, chatting for hours, reminiscing about their past lives, and sketching out plans for the future. Every night, they sat on the rooftop beneath the starry sky, talking about love and realizing they had found each other. Meanwhile, the police discovered Zaid's body and immediately reported it to Rogue, who was leisurely enjoying a dramatic performance. Rogue ordered Moran to find and capture Shelley at all costs, boring an end to the situation before the video leaked, as it would ruin his reputation. Meanwhile, Shelley and Eric continued to enjoy their sweet love. They often went on picnics in nature together, relaxing with other young couples, taking long walks, and dreaming about growing old together. The couple even collaborated on music, creating deeply emotional melodies. However, one day, as Shelley glanced down at an instrument, she suddenly recalled a painful memory. She confessed that she had once been very passionate about music, but had stopped playing due to something terrible in her past. Shelley shared that her mother had forced her to perform in places inappropriate for her childhood, causing her to witness things no child should ever see. Those around her suffered because of it, and Shelley always carried a deep sense of guilt. She didn't dare to fully disclose everything to Eric for fear that he would leave her. However, Eric reassured her, affirming that he couldn't live without her. One weekend night, they went to a club, where Shelley unexpectedly ran into Zaid. The friend recounted the murder of her friend and warned Shelley to leave the city immediately. Alarmed, Shelley pulled Eric away, promising to explain everything when they got home. As they entered the apartment, thugs suddenly attacked. Eric and Shelley were caught in the blurry line between life and death, causing them to be separated. Shelley was thrown into a dark abyss, while Eric fell into a suspended place where souls awaited their final judgment. There, he encountered a mysterious soul named Kronos, who explained that according to ancient belief, crows were tasked with guiding souls along the path predetermined by fate, either to rest eternally or to continue fighting against injustice. Kronos said that the crow would show Eric the way, helping him choose his next path on his journey. However, Eric couldn't accept the reality of what was happening, and trust left. Kronos urged him to wake up and then pushed him hard. Eric fell down and jolted awake in his apartment. He immediately tried to find Shelley, but she had disappeared. Suddenly, he heard the voice of Marion's henchmen. They had returned to the apartment to retrieve Shelley's phone because someone had interrupted their plans. In the meantime, a man appeared, claiming to be a police officer, which left Eric feeling confused. Eric felt confused, complaining that he had lost touch with reality and didn't understand what was happening to him. Suddenly, the police opened fire, causing him to fall to the ground. However, he immediately got back up, leaving the other man stunned. They plunged into a fight, and even though Eric was stabbed in the abdomen, he still pulled out his knife and continued to fight. In the end, he killed the police officer with his own knife. As he looked at his wound slowly healing, Eric staggered out onto the street, recalling Kronos' words about the crow and the souls. He suddenly realized that boundless sorrow does not always lead the soul where it needs to go. Suddenly, Eric saw Shelley standing on a bridge, about to jump into the water below. He shouted, calling for her to stop, but she jumped. Without a moment's hesitation, Eric leaped after her, confronting Kronos. Quickly at that moment, he understood that they were both already dead. Kronos explained that Shelley was on her way to a place far worse than this. The ones who had killed them had made a pact with the devil, trading eternal life for innocent souls. Eric knew he had to avenge their deaths so that their souls could find peace. Aka's body could no longer be killed. The pain would forever endure, lingering as long as his love for her remained pure. Kronos pushed Eric back into the world of the living. The first thing he did was visit a friend to get a gun. After that, he sought out Shelley's mother, but she only tried to deny everything, claiming her daughter was abusing substances. Eric knew the truth about what had happened. Sophia appeared frightened during their conversation, and Eric went into Shelley's room, where he found photos and movie tickets from Zaid. When he arrived, he stood in the entrance and encountered his killer, a man who didn't seem too surprised by Eric's presence. Eric demanded the identity of the mastermind, but before he could react, the man hastily pulled out a gun and was hit by a stray bullet. Falling down, Eric grabbed his phone and found Marion's number. When he looked outside and saw the woman getting into a car with her assistant, he immediately stepped onto the street. However, the thugs quickly realized what was about to happen and ordered Marion to duck down. Despite that, Eric fired his weapon but was immediately stopped by Marion's assistant as he tried to take out everyone inside the car. In the end, he was knocked out into the street, right in front of a large truck. But with his immortal strength, Eric awoke and recovered that night. Meanwhile, Rogue visited Sophia, wanting to know why Eric had been seeing her. The woman had no choice but to admit that Eric was willing to do anything to bring Shelley back. It turned out that the mother had traded her daughter's soul for money, and now she regretted that decision. Rogue had sent her soul to hell, and in her despair, the woman had committed suicide by jumping out of a window. Meanwhile, a man got into a car where the young piano artist was waiting and called Marion, informing her that Eric had returned and ordering her to let him in. At the same time, Eric found Zaid's friend and accused him of betrayal. In a panic, The friend revealed that Marion was just a puppet, and that the true mastermind was Vincent Rogue. He could commit brutal acts merely by using his voice, infiltrating people's minds directly and making them act in the most horrifying ways. The boy had recorded the video that led to the deaths of Zod and Shelley. Eric let him go and quickly made his way to the apartment where they had once taken refuge. While escaping, he couldn't help but remember the happy moments he shared with Shelley and found where she had been hiding, where her phone was located. When he played the video, the image of Shelley under Rogue's influence brutally killing her friend appeared, which became too much for Eric to bear. He went to their mutual friend, confessing that he couldn't escape his haunting thoughts and began to doubt his love. At that moment, two of Rogue's thugs burst into the room, kidnapping Eric and killing his friend. Witnessing that horrific scene, Eric immediately looked for a way to escape and fought back. He was shot and suddenly fell into a state of death once again, returning to the afterlife. Here, Eric had to confront Kronos again, who told him that he had lost his ability to heal because he hadn't completed his mission and had doubted his love for Shelley. Now, her soul had to endure the punishment of the eternal darkness. Kronos advised Eric to let Shelley go, suggesting that his eternal realm would be easier if he did so. However, Eric was determined to ask Kronos to take his soul to save Shelley. Kronos reminded him that they would never be able to be together, but Eric insisted on enduring eternal torment to save the one he loved. Suddenly, a flock of crows soared above them. Kronos cut Eric's hand, mixing their blood together. Eric writhed in pain, his eyes clouding with black blood, but in that moment, he received the ability to fly between worlds like a crow. Now, he could restore justice and have another chance to destroy Rogue. Eric resurrected from the dead and took revenge, killing those who had harmed him with their own weapons. Then, Eric discovered a text message on one of their phones revealing that Marion would be waiting at the movie theater. He horrifically disguised himself and headed to the meeting place. Meanwhile, Marion reported to Rogue that the boy had unfortunately died, which displeased him. However, the show began, and Marion, along with her henchmen, turned their attention back to the performance. Eric entered the theater and systematically took out each of Rogue's guards. Although they tried to stop him, the boy moved forward coldly, leaving a trail of corpses behind. No knife or bullet could harm him, every wound quickly healed. Marion updated Rogue on the situation, and he thanked her for what she had done. Meanwhile, Eric made his way to Marion's balcony and demanded that she reveal Rogue's location. Reluctantly, she provided him with the address. Moments later, Eric decapitated her and her guard. He carried the two heads onto the stage, throwing them into the audience, which caused panic and sent them rushing to escape. Amid the chaos, Eric caught a glimpse of Shelley and remembered her wish for a bouquet of lilies. He searched for those flowers, and after placing them on the bridge, he continued toward Rogue's estate. When Eric entered Rogue's room without encountering any obstacles, Rogue mocked him for his intention to bring Shelley back and revealed that he, too, was made of flesh and blood, expressing sympathy for Eric's disappointment. However, Eric did not believe in Shelley's sins. Rogue suddenly stabbed a dagger into his chest, claiming that only hatred remained in Eric's heart. Despite his injury, Eric refused to succumb. He focused on the bright moments of the past, determined to send his enemy to the other side. He easily defeated Rogue, sending his soul to hell and freeing Shelley's spirit. The girl rose from the abyss and rushed into the arms of her beloved. Eric reassured her, gently explaining that he could not return to the way things were before. Enraged, Shelley firmly refused to return without Eric by her side, but she knew that nothing could change that. One night, when she woke up, she saw Kronos appear in the form of a doctor and announced that Eric had sacrificed his life for her. Shelley couldn't hold back her tears while Eric reminisced about the beautiful moments of their time together, believing that one day their souls would be reunited. The film is not just a story about love but also about the pain and the eternal struggle for justice, a journey that never ends, even after they have departed.